Welcome to The Bottom Line, a wrap of the business news of the day. And we start with the mover of the day, which is Discovery, that of course holds the big medical aid fund, Discovery Health. It fell by a whopping 8.5% today on the back of concerns about the national health insurance that bill released in South Africa last week. At one point, it plunged by around 11% today, shares reaching 103 Rand, but they closed at 105 Rand 70 or so, which is 8.5% down. Now, Discovery's share price had already fallen by a similar amount last week, Thursday, before the long weekend, meaning it's declined by a total of 17% since details of the national health insurance bill emerged. That is huge. So what is the concern all about? Surely government's plan to implement a system that provides affordable health care to all, not just the rich, is laudable, and investors agree that it is, but they're concerned about how the national health insurance will be paid for and how it will be run. So there are still many issues to be ironed out, but in its current form, the bill provides for a central NHI fund which will purchase services on behalf of patients. That means that everyone could access healthcare for free, but those who are working will be paying extra taxes to subsidize the poor. The role of the private sector is one of the questions because it will not be able to duplicate services provided for by the state. So rich and poor will likely be in the same hospital queues, although those who can afford it could top up with extra specialized services. Unclear for now. Since most doctors may have to work for the state, the health minister could have huge powers to cap how much they earn. Full implementation of the NHI will only be in 2026, but there are fears that the uncertainty in the meantime could lead young doctors to leave. Investors have warned that such a big fund will be larger than Eskom. It could become a tool for corruption and state capture. They're concerned that government doesn't have the funds and the tax burden for the middle class will be unsustainable. The effect on medical aids is therefore unclear, and that uncertainty seems to be what weighs heavily right now on Discovery. Well, the Rand also fell today as concern around South Africa's economic woes continues to increase. It weakened by more than 8% to 15 Rand 46 against the dollar. It's trading around levels last seen almost a year ago in September 2018. Poor data around the economy has been compounded by government's perceived inaction to deal decisively with Eskom. A messy legal battle between the president and public protector has dominated the news, and the Rand has reportedly been the worst performing currency in the world since the middle of July. Negative commentary from rating agencies piling on the pressure as well. Investors are on edge with a possible downgrade looming. Moody's, of course, is the last major agency to rate South Africa's debt at investment grade rather than junk, but it is expected to release a rating announcement in November, and several analysts say a downgrade has already been priced in by the markets. At the same time, a global slowdown is making things difficult for Treasury. Government has recently pledged to finance the operations of major state-owned entities. Moody's says these bailouts remain negative for the country's credit record, risking investment outflows. South Africa could lose around 100 billion Rand in bond inflows if that last positive credit assessment turns negative. Well, with that, let's take a quick look at your main financial indicators. Now, something the team has been talking about tonight, the North Gauteng High Court has granted President Cyril Ramaphosa an urgent interdict to stay the remedial action contained in the Public Protector's Bosasa report. Last month, Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane found that Ramaphosa had misled Parliament over a 500,000 Rand donation to his 2017 ANC presidential campaign. Ramaphosa claims the report itself is legally flawed. Meanwhile, one of the companies accused accused of having donated to the CR17 campaign, has denied the reports over the weekend. The Signia Group, a Cape Town-based financial technology services firm, says it does not make donations to political parties nor individual political candidates. However, it has acknowledged that one of its non-executive directors made a donation in his personal capacity. Company spokesperson Lindy Lugil says as far as they're aware, personal donations are not illegal and reflect the personal views and preferences of individuals. At the same time, Absa Bank has rejected any suggestions it donated money to President Cyril Ramaphosa's campaign in 2017. It comes after weekend reports listed Absa's nation building as having donated money to the campaign and having benefited from government business. Absa spokesperson Pumza Makanda says Absa nation building is not an entity belonging to the group.
As a policy, as a bank, we do not donate to political parties, we do not donate to politicians or such like, and the policy is quite clear. So the short answer to your question is no, ABSA did not donate to the CR17 campaign.
Have you ever heard of ABSA Nation Building? What is that all about?
No, we haven't. And we checked and did all kinds of checks yesterday throughout our organization, and I can confirm to you and your listeners that there is no such entity under ABSA within the group. And so that entity doesn't exist under us, so it doesn't exist at all. But I also must add, for the benefit of your listeners, that when you write, in this case they wrote nation building as a reference for the payment, and that payment perhaps comes from an ABSA account. When you get that notification, for instance, by SMS, it's going to reflect first the name of the bank and then that nation building. So we do think that this is what has happened in this case.
So you could put in any name on the reference section, but it'll have ABSA and then whatever the name is. Is that the normal practice?
Yes. It first reflects the name of the bank, and then it will reflect whatever it is that you put under reference. So in this case, it does sound like that is what happened. Therefore, it came out as ABSA Nation Building, but it is not an entity of ABSA that exists.
All right, so ABSA distancing itself from these allegations. But while I got you on the line, let's just talk a bit broader now. Talk to us about the laws governing banking information, confidential information like that. If it gets out into the public domain, does that amount to a violation of the right to privacy?
Look, as a bank, when we have clients, and with all of our clients, we've got a very, very strict terms and conditions. And we promise you as a client that your relationship with us is confidential. Whatever it is that you do with us is confidential and will not be disclosed to parties. So we don't disclose such information because we are required by law. We are obliged to keep such things confidential.
But have you dealt with certain of these confidential banking statements being leaked in the past? And what sort of scenarios played out in that regard?
I think in this case, I will just want to make clear that ABSA was not contacted to provide any statements in relation to this matter. And therefore, whatever information that's out there, it is not information that would have been received from ABSA. And in any case, when someone's information has been leaked, and now you are asking me to say what would happen legally. Legally, we have got that right to understand how that such information was leaked. And it so happens if that one of our employees may have been involved, and that is something that we would investigate. Then obviously we would deal with such accordingly.
In other business news, the former CEO of the Public Investment Corporation, the PIC, Dr. Dan Majila, has denied there was any external influence when the PIC decided, very controversially, to invest in IO technology. Majila was answering questions on whether that deal was pushed through before the ANC Nasrec conference, as the Commission heard earlier. The PIC invested 4.3 billion rand, buying a nearly 30% stake in the initial public offering in IO technology, in a deal clouded by reports of flouting PIC processes and the inflation of the company's value. Majila says he is shocked at the behavior of some of his former colleagues that said he had overruled them when the decision to invest in IO technology was taken. He added that they had written memos supporting the transaction. Majila signed off on the deal before a Portfolio Management Committee meeting could sit to approve the deal, with a view that the decision would later be ratified. The meeting that was supposed to ratify the decision went on to instead approve the deal that was already signed off. Majila says he did not correct the meeting as he did not see it as a problem until this was flagged by internal auditors that the decision was never in fact ratified.